Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, as you know, I've been doing a deep dive into Islamic history and trying to figure out and find out more information about Islamic personalities. So I brought over, I won't say dragged anymore, Sheikh Abid with me. So Sheikh, you know, we were just talking about the Syrian scholar that you mentioned, and you told me to remind you about the works that he produced from al-Mizzi. Obviously, the works he's produced, I was doing some calculations on the iPad here. He's produced over 119 volumes. I mean, and he's still alive. He's going to carry on producing more works. I mean, I just cannot fathom such a thing. But I think more than that, let's move on to al-Mizzi, right?
Yeah. So the contemporary scholar, Bashar Awad, Ma'ruf, he's the one who's produced these critical editions of, which have been published now, of different scholars, one of whom was the works of al-Mizzi. He himself, al-Mizzi, was, you know, from several centuries back. He, you know, 1256 of the Common Era, or around the 8th century, mid 7th century, of the mid 700s onwards, was Imam al-Mizzi. His actual name is Abu al-Hajjaj Jamaluddin. He's known as the beauty of the religion, right? And he was no doubt a Habr scholar, you know, a heavyweight, and a hadith specialist. In fact, he became the preeminent hadith scholar of his time, specializing in what are known as the chain of narrations, the isnads.
Yeah.
Right. So you say from Ihtisham to Abu Bakr to Abid, and there's this chain of narration all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, when you have a system like that, which is part of the system of Islam, its credibility and its worth and its value lies in the fact that you don't just have names, but you have details behind those names. So
biographies.
Yeah, biographies, but you know, biographies, CVs, references, you know, biographical data with some depth to it. So Ihtisham is a name, we even have a face, but what do we know about his performance and his reliability and his track record in terms of, you know, cross-referencing hadith? So how good is your memorization? And how good is your...
you can't put me on the spot. I'm asking you the questions.
Well, right. So all of that is tied in to how that system works. Yeah. And he, al-Mizzi, Jamaluddin al-Mizzi,
yeah,
would have been the specialist, the preeminent hadith specialist and narrators known as Ruwat. He had two specific works, which I find actually interesting, because usually when you become a heavyweight, you end up producing lots of different works.
Yeah.
This man, this giant in reality, he focused all his efforts on two works and two works only. We only know of two works that al-Mizzi actually produced. One is called Tuhfatul Ashraf, right? And the other one is known as Tahdhib al-Kamal. If we have a chance, we'll go through and talk about both. But just let me first explain how amazing Tuhfat al-Ashraf is. Tuhfat al-Ashraf deals with the atraf of the hadith. Not ashraf. Ashraf means the gift or the prize of the nobleman and nobility, i.e. the people of hadith. But then it deals with the atraf. Atraf is plural of the word, the tarf of the hadith, which means the ending or the header of the hadith. So let's give an example. You have the hadith of actions, which begins with إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So what al-Mizzi will do is he takes the beginning of the hadith and he says across all the 6 books, and you'll deal with some others alongside that. 6 books are Bukhari, Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abi Dawud, At-Tirmidhi, An-Nasai, Ibn Majah, and some others. And he says, I'm going to tell you every single place in all of those 6 books that a hadith begins with إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Remember, you're dealing with a man who died in the mid 700s, Islamic calendar. Yeah. So there are no computers around, right? And he will literally alphabetically put all the hadith in those 6 books according to the beginning of the hadith. And he'll tell you exactly where it is. So just to give you a sense of perspective, that hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions judged by intentions, it occurs in the various books, but in Bukhari alone, it doesn't just occur as the opening hadith, which it does, of course, begin. He begins his Sahih al-Bukhari, with this hadith. but it also occurs, in addition to that first entry, in 6 other places within just Sahih Bukhari itself.
Wow.
So al-Mizzi has to kind of cite this in Bukhari, and it'll have the different places. He'll tell you.
So he mentions the beginning of this chapter, this.
And then you have, or it also occurs in now Sahih Muslim, and he's telling you each one of the books, and he does this for every hadith according to the alphabetical entry of that hadith itself.
You know, subhanAllah, it's amazing because in my head, all I'm imagining is Microsoft Word, me pressing the shortcut to find a word, and then it listing it out for me. But he was doing this just as his work. There was no computer. He was the computer.
Absolutely. And you know what's, when you see his other work, which we'll talk about, you'll see even more of this, computer genius that's embedded, that Allah had granted, people from within the Islamic communities, Ummah, to over the centuries to be, support for the heritage and the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ. And it's something that when you're reading it, when you're looking at it, when you're just reading about it or hearing about it, you feel compelled to ask yourself, and what am I doing to be a transmitter of his ﷺ's legacy?
Wow.
But in terms of the book itself, one might ask, okay, so this is all well and good, and this is amazing, but what does it actually give me, or what function does it serve? So here's where the answer lies. It serves a multitude of functions. It shows you, just how amazing the Sunnah has been organized in terms of its preservation, the hadith. But there's another role. Let's say I'm looking at another hadith, not one in Bukhari, which is obviously the most, accepted in terms of its authentic book, but a hadith which has a similar starting, but let's just use a hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. And I now am a hadith scholar of now, or at Mizzi's time, etc. Any of these 700 years that have passed. I want to see how strong is this hadith. If it's just got one narration, one chain of narration, it still could be perfectly acceptable. But sometimes there may be a weak link. So I might now look for a supportive link, i.e. if that same statement is attributed to the Prophet ﷺ through 70 different isnads or channels of narration. Each distinct, unique narration is supporting the same words. The Prophet saw this, or he said this, he did this, right? Surely, we'd both agree that kind of now increases your certainty and the sense of reliability you have about that.
Absolutely.
So now, what Mizzi's done, as soon as I want to actually check up this hadith's authenticity, I now can look up إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, and I can find all the places I can locate that isnad, that chain. And then I can look into each one of those chains and each one of the narrators independently, and he's basically done all the preparatory work for me beforehand. He'll have his own opinion on those isnads, but he's not forcing that on any other hadith scholar. He's paved the way for everyone else to be efficient and effective in that research.
It's like a big reference bibliography book.
Database at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And literally he's arranged it in such a fashion. There's the other work which I mentioned he's written, which is Tahdhib al-Kamal. This is dealing not with the hadith itself of those 6 books, in the first instance, is dealing with the narrators.
Okay.
And so what he's done is every single narrator, so the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, Bukhari says, قال حدثنا الحميدي. His immediate teacher was Humaydi. He says, قال حدثنا سفيان. Humaydi's teacher is Sufyan, meaning Sufyan ibn Uyayna. He's narrated. From حدثنا يحيى ibn Sa'id al-Ansari. From Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari. From Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi. From Alqam ibn Waqqas al-Laythi. From Umar al-Khattab, that the Prophet ﷺ said, actions are judged by intentions, and every person will have that which they intended. To the end of the hadith. That's the first entry. So what he's got is al-Humaydi. And then he lists all the shaykhs, the teachers of Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, An-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, and he puts them in alphabetical order.
Wow.
From alif to ya.
Wow.
Then each one of them, he deals with their teachers alphabetically, according to as it occurs in Bukhari and Muslim, and Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, An-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah. So he's basically went through each one of those 6 books with a mega fine tooth comb, and he listed them out. Now just to think, you're talking about literally what we can only imagine. How did he do it? How many million, probably 1 million sheets of paper would have been required to write out the list and say, okay, fine, I've got Humaydi here, but actually we've got another Shaykh al-Bukhari that starts not with Ha, but starts with the letter before, Jim. right? And actually, and he would have to keep reorganizing it until now we've got the work and we can't find any errors in the alphabetical order or anything else. No claim is made where he says this sheikh was a sheikh of Tirmidhi, for example.
And it was incorrect.
It proves incorrect.
Wow. Wow. I'm just astounded by the sheer genius of the man, especially his way he's computed the data and actually formulated it and actually put it into effort.
And when you look at the manuscripts, you will find even, Astasham, that he's put the hadith and the narrator's cut in different colored ink. So he's got red color ink. You know, the stuff that we'd see nowadays and we think, okay, you know, we can put it in different colors to kind of distinguish one thing from another and make it appealing and easier in the eye. All of that was done by him. And he's doing it in essence single-handedly.
Wow.
This was his own, not even relying on other scribes.
Wow. You know, it just tells me, you know, you master a trade and that's all you do. And he's kind of the pinnacle and an example of how he did something really well and just did that only one thing.
And you know, he became like the dean of the school that was there in Damascus, in Aleppo in his time. And that facilitated it. But really, this speaks of a man or a person who decided to be dedicated, to be disciplined, and who was clear on what he desired. And inshallah, we believe that he desired the pleasure of Allah and the service of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah fulfilled his desire and his dream.